Hello there, everybody, and welcome to this session doing some, I'm going to teach some endgames here on Lead Chess. Let's make certain, yeah, make certain that that's off, and let's go ahead and get started. So, like I've done in the other videos, the purpose of this series is to be able to look at a position and to be able to know, just at a glance, if the position is white to move draw, white to move win, or black to move draw, black to move win. Just to know when you're calculating this move like 5 steps ahead in some end game and you're wondering, my opponent has a knight here. Do I trade it off? Do I not trade it off? Is the end game winning? Is the not end game not winning? And we need to know these things before we get into king and pawn end games. Otherwise, you could go from a winning endgame and end up in a drawn one, or you'd go from a drawn endgame and try to create some sacrificial chances or to create chances to enter into a drawn endgame. And this happens all the time. People blunder into it all the time. So here, you'll see that these kings are face to face, like we talked about in the other moves. This in the other videos. This is called the opposition. So here we have white to move and draw, black to move and win. And we'll talk about that really quick. Let's just play a few moves here. So king f5. Now if the king goes to any of these squares, he's lost. But if he goes to the key square, the opposition square, he can hold the draw. And so no matter where this king is going to go, he can never enter what we call the key squares. The key squares to assist his pawn. He can never enter these squares. So king in front of the pawn, king in front. You remember this from the other video. King in front, king in front. King behind, king behind. And we're just going to follow this king no matter where he goes. He's going to be our best friend. Little trick to make certain you don't follow too closely. Now it gets a little bit more interesting if it's white to move. Now white to move, I changed the video here. Now it's white. Now it's black to move. Now in this position, it's white who has the opposition, and we can make black give up his advantage. You see. And now we control what we call the key squares. We can get in and promote our pawn. Let's take a look at that again. So black's king comes here, we come here. Black's king comes here, we come here. And the point is just to guide our pawn up the board to make certain that the pawn's defended. So king here, king here. Now black has a couple of options. He can come here, he can come here, he can come here. These are the most serious options, I think. I think the most serious options are here and here, trying to wait moves, or here. Now, if you go here, check, king here, and you can see how this very directly leads into this king defending and guiding the pawn. So instead, let's try a more sneaky approach. Right? Let's try this move. Now, if we come here, and if king goes back, this is another win. Or white can be a little bit more sneaky about it and come along. And this is just the same thing. There's no way to stop promotion. Let's take a look at that with the computer, shall we? Doesn't really matter who I'm playing because we know the result. We know the result is a draw, so I'm playing white. And yeah, no matter what I do, the black king just follows me. So now, moving the king around is never going to work. If I come here, he's going to enter. Yeah. So it feels like in this position, the best thing is just to push the pawn, right? But now you'll notice we have this sort of like mother of king and pawn endgames where it's absolutely impossible to force the draw. King behind the pawn, king in front of the pawn, king behind the pawn, king in front of the pawn, king to the side, face to face. And you can see that there's no way to make progress. Let's try that with me playing black. Um, let's see what Stockfish wants to do. Okay, now if I had gone here, this would have been a loss. The king just enters and then escorts his pawn. Okay, so he doesn't try. He just pushes the pawn immediately. And now we're just in a basic pawn endgame. Okay, king behind the pawn. I know it looks like he's at a distance, but he is behind the pawn. So we're going to get in front of the pawn. King behind the pawn, king in front of the pawn. King beside, and there's just no way for him to win. There's no way for him to make progress. Now the king's behind, so I go in front. Come here, king's behind, king goes in front. Here. If he goes here, I'll go here. If he had gone here, I would have gone here or here. Alright, king behind, king in front. King behind, king in front. King beside, face to face. And there's no way to make progress. And yeah, you can see here, he decides to give up the pawn or to give stalemate. Draw. All right, let's take a look at the other one and see if I can win that position against Stockfish, shall we? Pawn number 7, there we go. So the key elements of this position, right, are determining who has the opposition. These are the two main elements, right? Who has the opposition and where is the pawn positioned? So here our king is in front of our own pawn and we have the opposition. And this determines that it's a win or a draw. So let's take a look against the computer. So just remember those two elements, the king in front of the pawn, our king in front of our own pawn. And all right, so here I'm defending and we know that this is a loss, right? We know that I'm losing. Because I need to move, I need to give up the opposition. So it doesn't matter where I go, the king comes here. And so if I come here, pawn here, and now you can see that I can't cover these squares. So I have to give it up. The king comes here. And my best chance now is to try to stay in the middle of the board and flag my opponent. But I can resign this in good conscience. Let's see if I can do it against Stockfish, shall we? Okay, so he comes here, so we need to take the opposition, yeah? So we're going to come here. Come here, king back, we push the pawn and we control this square. And now we're just going to escort the pawn. And you can see how he's going to try and stay in the middle of the board to prolong the checkmate as long as possible. Understandable. I don't really need to prove that I can checkmate with a king and a queen. But it's all a very useful position to know. King in front of the pawn, with or without the opposition. With black, with the defending side with the opposition, it's a draw. With the winning side with the opposition, it's a win. With the pawn up side with the opposition, it's a win. So just try to remember that. King in front of the pawn, opposition.